And we got a good picture with Blue.
Oh, absolutely. And the library dog. That's like really cool. Like,
So who in here believes in paranormal investigations? What did you? All right, there's not a club. No, so give you a little bit brief statement about O.C.P Paranormal. In 2009, I started O.C.P Paranormal simply by having an interest in the paranormal world. I had an actual experience I'm a police officer by trade. So where I worked at, my mom just lived on the opposite side of the railroad tracks in Fort Mifflin. I had an experience where I seen an apparition of my grandfather. With that being said, I'll cut it short. A mutual friend of mine had some friends that were involved in paranormal investigations at Delaware County, and that's where I got my foot in the work. And there's really no rocket scientists do it. I'm sure Glenn can vouch for that. But right back in 2009, I was on patrol. Based at Delaware County, he called me here, and there was a journalist, and there's really no rocket scientists, and if anybody's familiar with this county, but sort of northern Delaware back in 2009. I was on patrol, based at Delaware County, and there was a journalist that really got rocket scientists, and if anybody's familiar with this county. But and there was back owner was County journalist that he had some experience, and there was a journalist that really got articles of but and back owner that he had some journalist that really got articles of but and back
we did City Hall, Philadelphia City Hall quite a few times. We weren't allowed to say where we were or what we were doing. We did City Hall, Philadelphia times. One day out of the blue, he gets a call, say where we were or what we were doing. Yeah, and they were like, listen, we want you guys to come back down to City Hall, and we're going to have Daily News and the Inquirer there, and we're going to have camera crews. And you're like, what happened to all the secrecy? What happened to all the, and then boom, it was just out there. I mean, we haven't really done too much there since then. But that's how it goes in this field. Like, you see all kind of things. You see all kind of places. A few years back, we did an actual prison, Northampton Prison in Pennsylvania. Not an abandoned prison, not a closed down prison, a fully stocked prison with inmates and prisoners and all alike. And it was a whole process. We actually got called in by the warden to investigate activity underground. And we weren't allowed to say where we were or what we were doing there for at least 5 years for security reasons. So you run into some strange stuff throughout this. After the 5 years, we were allowed to disclose some photos. We couldn't disclose a lot of photos from the underground system. Apparently, the prison was built in 1704, I believe, the foundation. And inmates and guards alike were actually having experiences in the underground system. So we went in there with some of the scientific equipment, found some major gas leaks in the system that they weren't aware about, so we prevented the prison from blowing up one day. And while we were underneath the prison, we heard the tapping on the pipes, how prisoners communicate to each other through Morse code. We think there's leaks, like what's going on, and so one of the guards told us, they're talking about you. He could decipher the whole, they knew exactly who we were, why we were there, where we were in the underground. It was amazing. He was like translating all the Morse code. You just see some incredible stuff during some of these investigations. Yeah.
Can you tell us what they said?
Well, There was a lot of course, harsh language.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
these people are in prison for rapes, robberies, murders, you know, so they're not giving it to a clean, but they were talking along the lines, sharing stories of some of the stuff they've seen, hoping we were gonna get some evidence. And the guard that was with us translated this stuff like it was nothing. Like, that's his job, was kind of covert security, and he would listen to the message system. And I was like, you come down here and listen to pipes? Like, is that how it works? And he's like, yeah, it's pretty much what I do. He says, that's how we keep track of prison riots, and we had to go through a whole process. If the prison goes into lockdown, what we were gonna do. We had female investigators there. That was an issue. Being locked in a prison with a bunch of murderers and rapists could be a problem if we go into a lockdown situation. So we've had some interesting experiences over the years.
One of the things Glenn mentioned about almost saving prison from being blown up. Again, we get a lot of emails. I get a lot of phone calls from people that have private home investigations or historical locations. One of the things, like I said, Glenn mentioned about finding what he found in the prison. There was a customer that we called, or a client, out in Lafayette Hills, PA. And Glenn, do you have that one piece of equipment that you have with you?
Which one?
The atmospheric tester?
Oh, yeah, the air quality.
So I'll kind of explain this. So I've been getting some this was quite a few years ago too, and I was getting some really disturbing emails and text messages from our client saying that she had a demon in her house. And the weird thing about it was she would, for the most part, she would go in her shower and turn the hot water on and let it steam up. And then would say in her videos and the text message, can you see it? Can you see it? So what we found out was, is anybody familiar with this? RC's like go in their showers and stuff and turn it basically and from the let it steam up and then
Air quality.
videos and the text message.
It'll
Can you see it?
detect anything in the air as far as any kind of scent, perfume, cigarette smoke, any kind of permissible gas, things of that nature. We use a lot of scientific equipment. We're not all just running around and sitting in dark rooms asking for anybody. That's the perception. That's what you see on TV a lot. Okay. Yeah, sure, why not?
Feel free. They go electrocution.
Basically, what that device does is it takes a gulp of air and electronically measures the air to see particulates and things we could not see with the naked eye. So then it's our job to decipher what it's picking up. In that particular story, which I'm sure John will finish in a minute.
Yeah, so it got really weird really fast. And you want to laugh at this because it's funny, but just going to show you how stuff in the atmosphere can cause people to, whether it's have hallucinations or have paranormal experiences. She pulled out a shop vac, plugged it in, and started shop vacuuming her legs. She said, can you see it? The demon's on me. So me and Glenn kind of like looked at each other. Now this meter that you have passing around, Glenn was picking up stuff, all around the vents from, well, we started on the first floor, all up to the second floor. So Glenn's like, look, I want to go down to the basement and see where we can try to figure this out. Here I think they had like a butane gas system. Or
Yeah, there was a propane gas system that was actually leaking into their ventilation system. So as they were running their heat and they were running their air conditioning, they were pretty much gassing themselves.
Yeah. So we basically saved, that was the one point, besides the prisons, that we actually saved people's lives. We suggested that they seek some medical attention. If there are any nurses in here, or you're being exposed, future nurses can be exposed to the element like that. Be surprised with some of it. Plus, we also dealt with my police side of it. I also called the local police department out there, and here they had a lot of domestic abuse going on. There was some drugs, right? They had a slew of stuff. They had a lot of stuff going on.
There was a lot of it. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So, I watched a prison documentary before. Inmates said that the cell was right next to the electric chair, and after execution, do things at night. You said you feel pains and you stop the one on them. Have you guys ever experienced anything like that?
That sounds like EMF sensitivity.
I'm sorry. It could be EMF sensitivity. It could be because of the amount of deaths. For years, it's been claimed in Alcatraz underneath in their segregation wing under there. going back to the Civil War, when that was a fort, that for years, a entity or demon would come and visit inmates in their cells at night and drove them absolutely mad. And they all pretty much described the same entity on Alcatraz Island, which still goes on from my understanding. If you spend the night down there, you're tormented with dreams. And you could say one or two people may be crazy or need some help. I like to use the word crazy. Mentally, right. I mean, but these people all encountered the same entity, being, spirit, ghost, whatever you want to call it. So there's we did Episcopal Hospital.
Yes. Anybody familiar with Episcopal Hospital? Any of the older staff here? Any nursing school students that used to go to Episcopal Hospital back in the day? No? Who wants to hear this story? So, also again, on the police side of this, the nursing school, if anybody's familiar with Episcopal Hospital, it's Fort Mifflin. My mom used to work there, my aunt used to work there. I had a lot of ties to the hospital. And one of the guys that would do narcotics in our district met with a lady and said, man, this place is really creepy. She goes, well, what's on it? He goes, really? Well, I got an officer that does this. So that's how we get into Episcopal Hospital. So there was two really, really good instances. One was, and I had to call Glenn. This is when Glenn and I, we were together a little bit. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that happen during investigations that not all the time happens the second time around. And what I'm getting at is, when we did do one investigation, the first investigation actually, I was with the nursing administrator, and she took me to the side where the files were, and she said this is where she's seen the apparition of the original administrator from there. I was okay, no problem. So we were there, and if anybody watches the shows, they do provoking. Anybody familiar with provoking, trying to entice the spirits? Well, the story with the nursing administrator and the founding fathers was that she had an affair with some of the founding fathers. Now, I'm not going to go into that. I asked her, I said, would you mind if I did this? If you do, I won't do it. She said, no, I want to see what's going on here. No problem. So I started provoking, and from the side of me to the right side, it sounded like somebody had just came back and just went, like, took a deep breath. And I said, did you hear that? And she said, what? I said, it just sounded like somebody took a deep breath. And with that, I felt a poke in my back. So I kind of turned around and wanted to make sure, I wasn't leaning against the wall, maybe like a light switch or something protruding. And there was nothing there. I was about a good maybe foot and a half away from the wall. Now I'm going to fast forward to the next investigation. We did what's called an EVP session, electronic voice surveillance. And this is where I get Glenn involved. So we go back to the same location, and one of the questions I asked was, were you the person that touched her? And the direct response I got was, did it hurt? So I called Glenn on the phone, and I was like, hey dude, did you ever hear of any time during an investigation, from a previous investigation, that you get a response from a past investigation?
Yeah, that was an interesting investigation and building, all together really. My theory on that, and me and John have talked about it quite a few times. The last time we went down there and did it, we are how far away from the hospital entrance, the emergency entrance?
Oh.
100.
Yeah, about a football field.
About a football field, maybe. And we were down there on a Friday or Saturday, I don't exactly remember. Business was hopping. Ambulances will come in 6 or 7 at a time, and they're bringing in the dead. They're bringing in the dead. Most people that are coming in are dead.
Who died?
It's a very violent area.
Oh,
We used to call them the red jet sleds, and they're lined up. We actually have pictures of the ambulances lined up. It's a very violent session. Most people that are coming in, they're DOA, or they're dying. I mean, so my theory always was, and a lot of people kind of collaborated with me on it, that there seemed to be one male entity that couldn't stand him inside that building, the same one that was captured with different EVPs and voices, that seemed to be controlling things in that particular building. And it was a very strong entity. It could move things, it could touch you, it could talk out loud. Yeah, kid. I brought in, I did a family and friends, remember the family and friends investigations? I had a couple, a friend of mine, him and his wife, wanted to do ghost hunting in the worst way. Now, the gentleman in question was an ex-police officer, 4 times Marine, studied for talk out loud, he's like, I want you to do this. I brought in, I did a family and friends, remember the family and friends investigation? All I heard from the fourth floor was just massive running down the stairs. Him and his wife ran down 3 or 4 flights of stairs. He was like, that's it, I'm done. He's like, yo, he used the word, this S is real, man. And he pulled out a sage and started saging him and his wife, and he's like, we're getting out of here. And they left. And ever since then, he's never asked to do it again. He doesn't watch any of the shows, any of that. But that building was the building goes all the way back to the Civil War. So, and oddly enough, and I forgot to tell you this story, I ran into a woman on Friday night up at Graeme Park. We were hosting a Halloween event up there. And she came up to me and she said, do you remember me? I was like, nah, I'm sorry, I don't. You refresh me? She said, we met years ago at Olde Hospital. I used to go to school there. She says, I was a student there, 79, I think she told me. We got to talking about the building, and she said we weren't allowed past the 3rd floor. Everybody was 1st and 2nd floor, and that was it. You just couldn't go up. Administration shut it down. And that was exactly why. And the building still stands. It's great.
So I went on to, I started delving in Facebook a little bit, and they had a nursing, the school page. So I went on there, somebody invited me in, and this lady hit me up when I was asking, does anybody want to share some stories? Lady says, can I call you on the phone? I said, absolutely. So she goes on to tell me that the one night she was there, must have been a holiday, everybody went home, there was quite a few students that stayed around. Might have been the 3rd floor, that was one of the floors, whatever the common area was. She said she goes from her room, she went to go upstairs and grab a coat. You know, you got to a college area, you have your own. It's a nice big room, you got the study area, you got TVs on there, you got games, stuff like that. That's the kind of room. So she's down the hallway getting a Coke, and she's walking down, she sees the girl next to her common area of her room. She said, she goes from her room, like, up here upstairs to grab a Coke. I said, okay. Now, again, she describes it as being dark, and if you watch the movie Poltergeist, you can see that, TV flippers, you can see that flipping off the wall. So she goes down and says, what's going on in there? She said the girl turns back around and starts looking inside. She's like, whatever, So she goes back downstairs, as she's going to her room, she crosses the girl's room, the girl's sleeping in her bed. Come to find out, she told me later on during a conversation that they were doing seances in that room. So whatever, when I called Glenn and told him that, whatever, a lot of people don't believe in the Ouija board, but I do, and I don't mess with it. So whatever it was they were doing, could it have been like Glenn mentioned, the area, the vibe, the energy that, from the negativity in there, or could it be from them doing seances with the Ouija? I don't know. That's a question to ask. That's why we continue to do it today.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a darker side to all this. When you get into this, it's sometimes like a circus. When you are called to somebody's house to investigate claims of demonic activity, I mean, it could be the person is having psychological problems. It could be there's another form of abuse going on in the house. And it could be legit. I got into this as, and I'm not going to point out anybody's age or anything in this room, but when I was a kid, and I'm not going to point out my age, it was Leonard Nimoy and In Search Of. They were the ghost shows, right? You know what I'm talking about. I do. When Spike came on TV to tell us about the Loch Ness Monster, we were there. Glued to the TV. We didn't have Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, don't really get into that one, but that's what we had. So you were interested at a young age. You might have had some experiences, right? You know what I'm talking about. I do. When Spike came on TV to tell us about the Loch Ness Monster, but I thought for the most part, you know what? These people are nuts. And I'll figure out what's going on. So I went out on a few investigations with a buddy of mine. And you had, things happened immediately. During the day, 1:30 in the afternoon, in July, hot, humid, and full body apparitions, voices, touching, the whole deal. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I was up for 3 days because your belief system just got shattered. What you thought was fake is now real. And you're trying to, as a rational person, you're trying to figure that out. What just touched me? Why did I get that voiceover recording? I know there was no one else there. There was a disembodied, we get a disembodied voice on recording, and we audibly hear it. That's as good as it gets. And we both heard it, me and the other guy. And it's just, I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, also some equipment over here. Now, most equipment, majority of equipment, is all based off of electromagnetic fields. Yes. Again, this one piece that Glenn holds in his hand is something that was specifically made by Glenn. And I'll let you take it over there.
This basically measures EMF fields. We have a whole bunch of scientific stuff that we actually go to, from fancy stuff that we build to actual electrical meters, like an electrician would come in your house and test your panel and find out what's going on. Everyone's heard the term fear gauge, right? No, you never heard the term? It's, too much electricity going in one section creates a EMF field, This one also has a UV laser on the side and just a green laser, which is very helpful in dark tunnels and stuff like that. I can shine it down there, hold the laser. So if it crosses the laser, something's down there. Electricity going in one section creates, can't beat the laser. If it has mass, the laser will get it. This laser is also put up to the laser on the side and just a green laser, which is very helpful. I'll pass that around so you can take a look at that. Some of the other equipment we use, shine it down there, and I know hold the way you watch the shows. We're using thermal imaging now. Okay? Thermal imager, I have books right to my phone. I can go hot with it in a matter of a minute or so. These are very expensive. This little unit right here sticking out of the bottom of my phone is $550. And that's on the low side. So, I mean, they can go up to $10,000, $12,000. I just hit a program on my phone. I have a battery that maintains the phone and the thing, and we can see in the dark. So there is no more dark for us. We can, go. So, good question.
Whenever you're looking around the place, is there a particular time of day or whatever that you see the most activity? Is it normally at night, or is it kind of just random depending on where you are and what's happening?
Well, if you watch a lot of the shows, it's always at night, isn't it? It's always, we're here up in Salem at 12 midnight. The truth is, if the place is haunted or active, it's active 24/7. You'll get activity during the day, you'll get activity at night. I asked this question at our Friday night event, and I said to everyone, we had about, I think, 148 people come through. Easily. And I said to them, what do you think of all the times throughout the year do we get the most activity? And you want to take a shot at it?
3 p.m.
What's that?
3 p.m.
3 p.m.? How about the actual season holiday?
Fall. Halloween.
Everyone thinks Halloween. Christmas.
Oh, really?
Christmas. We get a lot of stuff during Christmas. Pound for pound, I've done more investigations at Christmas than I have at Halloween. My theory on that is because Christmas is a very sentimental time of year.
Yeah.
Soldiers away at war, never made it back. A lot of the haunted locations of historical sites, that's what we get. Residual, intelligent haunts. Christmas seems to be the big one. It's motivation, through emotion.
And through an investigator's side of when you want to investigate, mainly a lot of times you want to investigate at nighttime because there's less traffic outside. Less foot traffic, less vehicle traffic. So when we're sitting there with our recorders and we play them back, we have to always make a determination whether or not that was somebody outside walking by. Was that a vehicle going by? Now keep in mind, when we have our night vision cameras, mainly we do investigations for about 4 hours, unless things start kicking off. So with eight night vision cameras for 4 hours, you're talking about 32 hours of video evidence. Like you want to rip your hair out.
Which you can say I did.
Yeah. And, also the recordings as well. it's just, there's a lot of time involved in this, and people just say, all right, so that goes on, and they're okay, let's go, you know? But no, there's so much more involved.
2 hours.
And a lot of times when you're doing investigations,
Which is it.
nothing happens. And, you know, also, no, but that's just, there's a lot of time involved in this. But when you go back to remember, whether it's, you know, but no, there's so much more involved that it has, or your night vision IR cameras, or, you know, your video, or, you know, the audio. And that's when you're sitting there listening to it, and you rewind this thing like 8 million times. God damn, did I really hear that?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. It's, there's a lot to contend with.
Yeah.
You know, as far as, evidence, yeah.
You started to talk a little bit about feeling like an actual, like a touch.
Mhm.
But I remember the last time you were here, I think you had 2 different stories. One was from Graeme Park, but the other one was
Yes.
from Laurel Hill Cemetery
Yes.
that like left a mark. I think that, like, talk about that a little bit, like when you have physical.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, story with Laurel Hill, might have been you.
which one, the one where I snuck it? Now listen to it, like, not all investigations are on the books or on the board.
We won't tell.
I started out, I was, yeah, that's, well, you know, we're not talking kids.
No.
I started out new, got together with a bunch of friends and was like, let's get in there, let's do that. So we parked our cars and like walked down this road. I don't know how we got away with it. We went through some fence and through some woods and we went up some stairs that were missing. We had to pull each other up and we spent the night inside Laurel Hill and it was the craziest night I've ever had. As we're going, little pebbles come flying out of everywhere. I took a guy with me, I was doing construction at the time. And this gentleman was a younger Italian guy, used to lift weights, you know, I mean, you know, there you go, I wanna see if we got some ghosts in here, I don't know. We got up, we got into an area, and we started walking, and he was very quiet. And I said, yo, Mario, you all right? He's Mario, was his name. Oh, gosh. He goes, yo, man, there's stuff going on. He's like, have you seen these mausoleums? Like, do you see what's, like, shadows and stuff that are moving? And I'm like, yeah, well, that's what we're here for, to find out. He's like, he was quiet most of the trip. He didn't say too much, you know. I mean, he stood right next to us, like, you know. And it was just a crazy, that's all we had. It was weird experiences all night. Has anyone ever heard the term will-o-wisp? It's an Irish term. Have you heard that? Go up. It's, scientists try to relate it to swamp gas. It's a phenomenon that's seen in cemeteries. It's a big Irish belief. And it's basically like a fairy light, if you want to call it that goes in and out of, you know, certain graves and tombstones and stuff. We were lucky to see that one night. And if that's swamp gas, I'm the president of the United States. There's no way. We actually filmed it. A friend of mine still has the footage. It was incredible. It was, you know.
What did it look like?
It basically looked like Tinkerbell.
Oh my gosh.
Like a flashing, you know, that little, where it leaves the trail. We were up on top of a hill and we could see down into the cemetery. And I said, look, there's somebody down there. I said, what's going on with the lights? The lights are moving down there. We got a little closer, and you could see it going around the headstones, and then it would just zoom right into the ground. Now you say to yourself, if somebody's dead, why are they on their dead body? That's kind of weird. Because if I die and can go anywhere I want, it's not really Philadelphia. Yeah, I'm going somewhere warm and tropical. But these are the weird things that happen during these investigations.
I think one of the ones you was talking about, if I remember correctly, was that in Laurel Hill, where the guy actually bought something on him, and they got that little girl's voice?
Oh, yes.
Is that that story?
That was the same. Yes, that was the same investigation as we were leaving. We were out there, the sun was just about to come up. I was like, look, we gotta get out of here, the cops come. No way.
Yeah.
I mean, let's run for giants here, you know what I mean? You know, that's the beautiful thing with O.C.P, you know, we're gonna call the police, go ahead. It's fine. We were leaving and we were helping each other downstairs, and one of the ladies that was a friend of mine who got me into this, she's back there talking and she starts crying. And she's like, Mark, I hear a female voice, like, can't you hear that? He's like, I hear something, but I don't know what it is. So I'm like, look, let's just get out of here. Like, we gotta go, you know? So we get down the stairs and all. They left the recorders running. And it was a clear voice of a little girl saying, I wanna come home with you. And she did. And she did, and her house exploded. She hear that? He's like, I actually had to go back to their house 3 times. What it is? The 3rd time I went back, so they had it. It's like, we gotta go, because we're not farming. So we get downstairs and all. They left the recorders running. They did. It was a clear voice of a little girl saying, I wanna come home with you. And she did.
There was also actual police reports, I think it might have been the night before it explained to me, is they heard bang on the basement door. Guy was down there with whatever equipment he wanted to defend himself with, and called the police, and there's nobody there.
Yeah, it was they haven't really done it since then. They kind of got out of it. She always claimed to be very psychic. I don't believe many psychics, I believe her. Because the voice on there was a click, there was no little girl present at any of these. You know, sweet as could be too, I wanna come home with you, she said. And she did, big time. Now, what happened, was anything in his house when he got back there and it kind of collided? I don't know. You had a question?
The way it attached itself to the drill, do you guys ever get scared that they'll touch you? Or has it happened?
I get attached all the time.
I got a wife.
I do not.
How do you shake them?
Yeah, I do.
There's a prayer. There's quite a few prayers out there that a lot of different groups use. They get the prayer of St. Michael.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different things, people do, cleansings, good luck coins. In my particular case, because I've been doing it so long and have been into many, a lot of groups don't handle a demonic investigation. But when they hear that, you know, we are the exception. I am the exception. I've been brought in on some of them that were really bad. I've been brought in by some of the people who do the shows and have gotten attachments and never want that publicly known. Some of the people you see on TV probably this Friday night coming up.
Anybody watch? Oh, sure you all watch The Conjuring, right? The one girl in that movie. She almost got me divorced. She was doing a book signing here in Philadelphia. This was quite a few years ago. And so as I'm talking to her on the phone, I met her through John Zaffis. Anybody watch The Haunted Collector on TV? Speaking of John Zaffis, because we had that one demonic thing we had to do. And we got into talking, and I said, well, where are you going to come to Philadelphia? Where are you staying? And keep in mind, my wife's sitting next to me on the couch. And she goes, well, I was going to get a place to stay. I said, well, you can stay at my place. And my wife started doing this. You know, but yeah, you meet some really incredible people. And I actually spoke to her about her experiences. And I can tell you this, everybody knows everything that happens in the movies isn't 100%. And she told me that,
Right,
but
that's-
some of the,
That's not the real Annabelle.
Yep.
The real Annabelle's in Raggedy Ann doll.
Yep.
That's the real Annabelle. So, everybody thinks that ugly one is just the ugliest little doll they got for it's Hollywood. You know, it's just the way it works.
So now we're talking about,
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh no, I was so going to Eastern State Penitentiary with my sister.
Oh, yeah.
This thing, and somebody was like, when I was there, I definitely felt like a presence that kept trying to like latch on to me. So I'm like, have you guys ever been down there?
we have. We were there with the Metro newspaper. Again, this time of year for us, it's really busy.
Yeah.
So we had the journalists from the Metro newspaper call us out. And it was kind of tough doing an investigation with them because they're constantly asking questions, what's this, what's that. Then you have staff follows around. At that point in time, they had, I don't know if it was construction, but they weren't allowing us to go to a lot of different places. So I returned to her and said, look, we're really limited right now. So, but Eastern State Penitentiary, we didn't get nothing that night because it was just such an awful night.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very popular spot, you know. As far as attachments, because that seems to be the big question people have these days. If you're very strong with your faith and it can't be changed, nothing's going to attach to you. You know what I mean? You know, segueing into a little religious belief, if that's what you want to do, but if there's some, I've had conversations with John Zappis privately at the table, we can talk. Some people are never corrupted no matter what. has something to do with their DNA, their blood, whatever it may be. Some people just know that they're different for this kind of thing. Others, no matter what happens, their faith will not be shaken. They believe what they believe, and that's it. The trick for them is to make you believe something different. That's all that can happen. So as long as you're on that path and you stay focused, you're good.
Now, let's go to the lighter side of this. So, and we'll get to this one clip here.
We would throw a constant gun.
Yeah, I'm sure. So again, we mentioned how we do investigations, whether it's a historic location, whether it's a private home, a business, things just, it's not there. It's like you're bored, you're ready to go home. Can you make sure I do this right?
Yeah.
So this was a scenario by the Oxford Circle. We did a church, and Glenn he actually is going to commentate.
This was totally unexpected, so like nobody did it.
He had no idea what doing it.
No.
So this is our one investigator, Dave, that he actually works for AAA, or when he salt the roads and stuff like that for winter time. So again, since we were having a little trouble with the audio, this was a preschool and a nursery school, and they said that the children in here were experiencing, they were seeing apparitions and whatnot. So the one guy says it was an apparition of a child. Now we go along the sides of provoking. I was the lighter side. So as we're going through this church, I can't look at this. I can't look at that. As we go through the church, I see a bunch of costumes, and Harry, one of my investigators, Harry, who's with me, is a relative of Dave. And he goes, dude, you're not putting it on. I said, no, I'll put it on. So I put it on, and then we're not realizing Glenn and I were watching the cameras. But a lot of times the guys, if you don't want to go around and investigate, you can sit there and watch the cameras, for if you're seeing visual with the cameras. And this is what Glenn picked up.
Yeah, it was total improv on his point, and no offense to my partner, he's probably the only one that can fit into that costume. I know me and Dave weren't, I'm just saying. And it was, that's exactly the things that, happened. We haven't heard anything back from that church after that.
No.
I mean, it was to the point that where even the Reverend was like, nah, there's something not good. And I really think in his situation, it was a waiver of faith.
Yep.
I really do. I really think things were making him believe, or lose his belief, if that makes sense. And once that happens, it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So I said, like, this is your congregation, this is your church, this is your building, just take it back. And we never had another word.
Yeah, I'll click to the next slide, and I'll interpret what's going on with that one. If I don't show this one. I'm not gonna start that. I see that.
Did you catch something on this one? Did you see something, or?
We had some doors open and closing. You could hear them in the background. It's a very big facility.
Oh, okay.
Very big facility, very big church. The church was connected to another building, another facility, which was the daycare. They had a daycare, they had a school system. They were very self-contained, which was very cool. And the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then they lived across the courtyard. There was a house over there that they lived in.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can dictate this. This is when Fort Mifflin, when you guys wanted to play tricks on Levy.
Oh, yeah. Fort Mifflin was an overnight investigation, and you're doing this all night long. I can't stay up all night long anymore. I'm just getting too old for that. So, some people take naps. So my partner here decides he's going to take a little nap. He goes one down, and we decided to play some games with him. And when he woke up, after this, he was telling us, a story about him being touched.
So, has anybody been to Fort Mifflin? you guys get a chance. So when you first walk through that tunnel, if you're coming through the tunnel, right hand side, you have the soldiers' barracks where they slept. This room here in the corner that was separated from the other one was the higher enlisted room. That's where they slept. That's where I used to like to take my naps. And so what happens here is it's a small room, I don't know, maybe 16 by 16, maybe 20 by 20. And everything there is old. I don't know how original you want to go, but they have the door handles that's all metal, where you push it down and it's a whole arm. Very distinctive. You can walk, you can be at one end of you can be out, you can be at one end of the barracks and literally hear somebody walking through. So what happened here was, prior to Glenn coming in and messing with me, I didn't hear no door open, but I heard a single set of footsteps. And again, Glenn used to like to mess with me, so I'm thinking, okay, here it comes. But and I felt what was like a nudge on my leg, and I kind of like peek up again, thinking I'm going to see Glenn there, and I sat up, and there was nobody there. So basically, this is the scene where I'm pretty much explaining to Glenn the experience I had. Here's the kicker. We go outside the room, and we're talking about this, and one of the staff members comes by, and overhears the story, so he asked me if I can repeat what was said. So as we go saying this to him, basically what happened, he said, and you mentioned that you were there, the room next door where other barracks were, somebody had the same identical experience I did, got their stuff and left. So that corroborates a lot of things. A lot of times as investigators, I won't tell Glenn what's going on, he won't tell me what's going on, only for the fact because your brain's so powerful, you might recreate a haunt in your mind. So we don't tell each other a lot of things that happen. And so yeah, with that being said, that's what happened in this scenario here.
Yeah, Fort Mifflin is probably one of the most wanted places on the East Coast, no doubt. I mean, coast-wise, next to Gettysburg. It's just some amazing stuff goes there. It's the only place that ever ran me off. I was in there one night by myself, totally. And you know it, you're there by yourself. And the place just lit up. It was just that kind of night. And I was sitting on the bench, and I was drinking beer. And I was smoking a cigarette, and I went, nah, this is just way too much. I'm seeing all kind of movement back in the artillery shed, paranormal investigator, that's what you're there for, yeah, you know what? I investigated the front gate and left. Some nights are like that, so you're not, when I filmed the show for the Travel Channel down here, it was a big production, and when you do the shows, you see the difference between actually doing it and doing the entertainment value. I was sitting there, I was doing my interview, and off camera, they got the fireplace in the background, off camera's the producer. And we're talking, and said, okay, here's what we're gonna do, we're gonna segue into this. As we were filming, that sound that he told you about the door, that opened up. The door literally click, click, and the door opened up. And we just kind of, are we still rolling or what are we doing? Next thing you know, cameras started going off, batteries started getting drained, cell phones started dying, sound equipment taking a crap.
Really?
Yes, during the episode, during the filming of the episode. And he's like, wow, that's kind of unusual. We checked all this equipment right before we started. I said, man, look where you are. Just keep it rolling. You never know what you're going to get. You know what I mean? Like, it took us about an hour and a half to get the equipment back up there. They went after the trucks, replaced all the equipment. That's happened many times, though.
Wow.
One of the things I do want to mention to everybody, besides the paranormal investigative side of it, keep in mind, when you guys go visit historic locations, it's been for quite a few years now, there is no more funds that go to any of these locations, zero. Now you find out when you go to these historic locations, you'll see the signs of, for example, the Friends of Graeme Park, or the Friends of this place, the Friends of that place. These are 100% volunteers that dedicate their time and energy for these locations. Glenn and I, after doing homes and businesses, we got together one time and said, what can we do differently for the paranormal field that other people aren't doing besides investigating? So we collaborated together and we came up with, let's start doing a paranormal program, especially around this time of year. It's got to be a home run. So now Glenn knows Beth McCausland from Graeme Park, and during the course of time, it wasn't that long, Graeme Park was actually on the list of being demolished. If you look around Pennsylvania into New Jersey, they're demolishing historic sites with no court hearing or anything. They're just coming down.
Turn it into a parking lot.
Yep. And Graeme Park was one of them. And when we stepped in, and Glenn mentioned to Beth about a paranormal program, our first couple of years we wound up raising $37,000 for it.
That's awesome.
And last Friday, the 21st and 28th, we did events for them. And
And we don't get any of those proceeds. All the proceeds go to the historical side. I was doing the math the other day from Fort Mifflin, from the other places, from Graeme Park.
about a paranormal program, our first couple of years we wound up raising $37,000. So if you
Of course,
guys,
if you order a pizza while we're there, we'll help you eat.
yes. So if you guys ever visit these locations, or just make it a habit, maybe just to take a day trip, at Graeme Park upstairs on the 3rd floor, which is probably one of the most haunted spots in that building, there's pictures there of what that room looked like. How the plaster was, it wasn't sheetrock back then, it was plaster. It was depleted, the small beams behind it were coming down. And just take a look around and then just see what the room looks like now.
Yeah, they've really, I mean, they've got a new roof on since then, new lawn equipment, you know, off of other programs too. Like, it's been just a big collaborating effort as far as, you know, the place is beautiful though. The big thing now is weddings. You know, we still do all our October events, and actually, we're going up in November, I didn't tell you yet. But we are for an actual our investigation to gather more evidence so they can use during those programs. But, yeah, we've raised a lot of money for history. But history is very important. You know, we're not just going out here and, you know, just plugging ourselves and, you know, we don't make any money doing this. We've never, even the Travel Channel episodes that I did, you do make money for that. And I sent it to Fort Mifflin, I never received it, I said, just make the check out as a donation to Fort Mifflin. Now, I mean, John just did Torresdale,
The
Windsor.
Startup committees, yeah, I think it's right up here. I just did a thing for them a week or so ago.
Yeah, I mean, that which turned out to be pretty good. They're making a donation, now all our donations go into the Portage Animal Orphanage where I work. So we don't, huh? Hey, you do not.
Yeah, what do you say?
Stop it.
2 seconds. Yeah, I'm talking after.
Yeah, definitely. Stop it. Yeah, all our donations are going right to the orphanage now. We don't receive a penny. You know, there's a lot of people out here that, yeah, come Halloween time, they're cashing in. Let's do it, ghosts everywhere, blah, 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 they do these shows. We've never received any money off of any of the programs. And we're not going to. A lot of people don't like that, but
Yeah,
that's the way it is.
so Fort Mifflin, we've hosted that for 5 years. And I went to Glenn the one time and I was like, Glenn, is it me or are they not doing this like shit? Like, they're like, they had a sewer line break and they had porta potties outside and it's like, and here they were kind of like backdooring us, they didn't want us to come back anymore. And they had another group come in, next thing you know, they're raising prices and come to find out a lot of these groups they're taking money.
Right, we're taking a percentage of it. And that's fine, I mean, that's what you do, that's not what we do. We don't need it, I mean, we all have full-time jobs, you know, like, I mean, none of us are rich, you know, or anything like that, but we just believe in giving it back.
But we want to thank Holy Family College.
Yeah, absolutely.
University for having us out. And
It's been great.
I wish everybody, does anybody have any other questions while we have some time left?
What are your thoughts on Penhurst, and I forgot the other one that you mentioned.
Eastern State.
Eastern State. What are your thoughts on those places for into attractions? Like, do you think they?
They got money hungry.
True, I was gonna say, I feel like
They
if
make
I
a lot
was,
of money off of, like, Penhurst
Yeah.
Asylum makes a lot of money each year.
right, I always thought like, as a ghost, I would be offended. Coming there,
Well,
doing everything.
I always said, as much as they wanted to charge us to go out there and do it, I think it's like $100 a person. I said, I gotta see George Washington, like, you know.
It's unguaranteed, it's unguaranteed.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, you mentioned the priest, you ever worked with other clergy, imams, rabbis?
Yes.
Priests?
Yes, yeah, absolutely,
Not like the high duty sort of stuff.
yeah.
I'm curious about your approach when you visit a site. Is it your intent to prove or disprove, or like when you go walk in the door, like what's your mind frame?
So our equipment pretty much speaks for itself, especially when you talk about the barometric stuff. the atmospheric testing, because a lot of, we don't think, I can say this, 9.5 times out of 10, a private home is not quiet.
Right.
There's some kind of atmospheric thing that's going on, or it could be domestic violence going on, it could be drug abuse, it could be alcohol abuse. So when we go to do an investigation, we're automatically looking into that. I'm making phone calls to other police departments too. I don't get paid to do this, so I'm not saying I don't believe in the paranormal, because I've had the experiences to prove that there is something going on. And as a matter of fact, I got a phone call from a gentleman, I think he's a professor here, that Glenn and I are going to be speaking to the Mesnet group. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Mesnet. Mesnet group? I don't know. I don't
Mensa,
know.
you can pronounce it two different ways. Mensa is usually, well, let's see, Alex Trebek was a member of Mensa, Einstein was a member of Mensa, Tesla was a member.
Where
Right,
are you
it's-
speaking that? That's so
Right, it's like, they call themselves the high IQ group.
Yeah.
Usually when you go to Mensa, you're looking for an answer, not a question. So I'm kind of like really antsy. You know, we're actually doing a whole paper on that, we're gonna present our, you know, and this is, we're gonna be doing it in Philadelphia, but they're going to be Zoom conferencing it at different branches. They have 90 different locations around the world. So it's never been done.
Will you have it posted on your, or is it private?
Yeah, I mean, like, just having the opportunity, and I know which company we'll be keeping when we speak at that. You know, I forget what your IQ level has to be at a certain level to get into Mensa to be a member.
But I get all the emails, like Glenn said, when he's investigating a lot of times, he handles a lot of historic side of it. He's like, you know, if I didn't mention this, I didn't mention that. I get them phone calls I get the phone call from or the email from you guys, I get the call from Mesna. I didn't know nothing about Mesna. I called Glenn, I said, yo dude, I said, we're gonna do a thing with Mesna. He said, what?
Yeah, it's a big deal. And, you know, to have it broadcast from Philadelphia to Germany and have it translated, you know, from Germany to Egypt and have it translated,
That's cool.
that's never
That's
happened.
very cool.
Yeah, questions? Yes.
What's the protocol of when you go to a house and you find like something paranormal, like a demon? Do you instantly call police? Like, what do you guys
So,
do that?
now, when we had an instance in Northeast Philadelphia, I have it on email, but I would have to dig it up. I actually have video, maybe next year if you guys want us to come out, I'll have that ready. Another point where a guy thought he had demonic possession. I'm from the Northeast Philadelphia. I belonged at one time to St. Jerome's Parish. And before I went there, I never did a demonic, investigation. So I went to talk to the priest. I called up, made an appointment. One of two things are going to happen. He's either going to accept what I have to say and bring me in, or he's going to tell me to leave it alone. So he takes me in to sacristy, gives me the whole Eucharist. He says he blesses it, the whole 9 yards. He goes, if you go in there, as soon as you walk through that door, if things start going off, he goes, I want you to leave immediately and come back here and report me. So now, if anybody's Catholic, you have, just like the military and the police department, you have, your chain of commands. Each city around the world has an archbishop. Each archbishop is there for any kind of exorcisms, stuff like that. If quite a few years on 60 Minutes or whatever, 2020, they had a special on where the Catholic Church was actually looking for people to learn how to perform exorcisms because there was such a shortage. And so, needless to say, we didn't have anything that night, nothing went on. Come to find out that that guy, his father, had delved into black magic.
Yes.
And so, yeah, we actually sent another group in there that was a little bit more experienced in demonic, doing demonic investigations. And, they came up with the same thing. Besides, black magic, there was, drug abuse and stuff like that.
So anytime anyone ever wants to go out and investigate, okay?
If you guys on O.C.P. Paranormal,
We do every once in a while.
Yeah.
We come on.
take a look.
I'm not doing it,
Yeah.
I'm asking for
On our Facebook page, go O.C.P. Paranormal. Glenn does, he writes better than I do. So, he'll post the events that are happening. I don't know, is Graeme Park done for the year?
Graeme Park's done for a year.
Around this time, or a week before, before Halloween week, check out Graeme Park. Again, we still promote Fort Mifflin, even though we don't do it no more.
Yeah.
They have and everything goes through them. Now, there's reservations, so if you don't get on there in time, it'll sell out. Once people know that we're gonna be there, it sells out, probably within a week.
Yeah, the next thing probably we'll be doing is the men's conference, and should I tell them secrets?
Sure.
I think I can. We're gonna be doing the old roundhouse, the old police administration building, which is now vacated.
Yeah.
Thanks to his truly there. And what the big thing here is underneath the jail, you know, the holding cell area, there's been a lot of suicides throughout the years.
I was there for, when I went recently, a guy found out that he was arrested for a special victims thing, and he, you know, once he got in jail and he knew he wasn't gonna, he had a port, he pulled his port out and just left that right there, so.
And so we're gonna be investing, I mean, the building, all throughout the building.
Yeah.
You know, there's been claims of activity, you know, and these are all police now, mind you, these
Oh,
are crazy people.
Speaking of that, September 11th, 2000, I will finish on this note. After September 11th happens, military, police departments, any first responders, I should say in general, were getting artifacts from when they were going out doing recoveries and whatnot. And there was two pieces that were brought into the roundhouse at 8th and Race. One of them was some metal girders from the World Trade Center, and then there was another one, a piece of cement from the Pentagon. That night I happened to be working overtime. Now, we have a metal detector that people have to walk through when we screen them. I'm working at the desk and the metal detector goes off. So I was kind of fairly new to the unit. And I just look up, you know, because you have radio dispatchers or homicide detectives that would come by at that portion of the night. And nobody was there, so I go back onto my computer, doing my work. And it goes off again, maybe 30 seconds later. So now I'm thinking someone's messing with me. I physically got up and walked around, and there was nobody there. That was the same day that they brought the artifacts in from September 11th. Now, was it because of that? Was it not because of that? And these are all reasons why Glenn and I go out to do these investigations.
Yeah, we wanna know for sure, so now that that building's completely, I think homicide was the last to leave.
Yeah, no.
Dragging their feet. Go find them, go find them.
Yeah, but, yeah, again, thank you guys for having us out.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you. I think it's really cool that you have a dog in here too. Like,
We do too.
that is.
She just showed up one day and we